What's going on, guys? I'm Steve. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If it's your first time stopping by the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't regret it. If you're a returning subscriber, as always, guys, welcome back, and I do appreciate the support. Guys, there's a phrase that was coined in the late 80s or mid 80s. And the phrase is, "Don't nothing move but the money." And nothing could be further from the truth when dealing with the justice system. And I'll prove it to you. You guys remember the Tyre Nichols case? Guys that have been with me from the jump. We've been covering this case since it first dawned. You know, Tyre Nichols, the man that was beaten by 5 police officers out there in Memphis, Tennessee, a couple years ago. And the trial has still not finished. Now, they had a federal trial as far as his civil rights were concerned, or whether they were violated, in which these 3 officers you see up here, Tredarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith, were found guilty of conspiracy in the civil rights case. And we were awaiting sentencing, which never came. Now, later on, in the state case, these 3 officers here were found not guilty in the murder of Tyre Nichols, which I couldn't believe and a lot of you couldn't. Now, I've been speaking vehemently about this situation and how I think it's foul. And I think it was a smack in the face of people that sought justice both in the city of Memphis and throughout the world that seen that this was wrong. We actually watched a man get beat to death on TV, on television, by police officers, and nothing was done. Now, with this long-awaited sentence, and news then dropped last Thursday with the Fed case that I'm supposed to be getting sentenced, that they're getting a whole new retrial because of some craziness with the judge. This whole thing is about money. You can't tell me different. They can sit up here and talk and say whatever they want to say, but this whole thing is about money, and I'm going to talk about that when we come back. Let's look at the original story and follow-up of what's recent right now. This is absolutely sickening. The justice system's a goddamn joke, and you'll see in it right here. Look.
News is first at 5 tonight on your news leader. A federal judge has granted a request for a new trial for 3 former Memphis police officers charged in the death of Tyre Nichols, Tredarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Stephanie Skurlock. Greg Hurst is off tonight. WREG's chief investigator Jessica Gertler joins us now with more on this breaking story. Jessica, this caught some folks by surprise.
It definitely did, Stephanie. We just got the order. The request for the new trial centers around allegations involving the actions of federal district judge Mark Norris. So the defendants claim Judge Norris was communicating with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI outside the courtroom. So here's what we found out from this order. On October 3rd, 2024, officers were convicted in federal court. So 5 days later, Judge Norris's clerk was reportedly shot in the chest. May 30th, Judge Norris meets with an assistant U.S. attorney and the special agent in charge for the FBI office. He wanted to know why the feds weren't working on this case. He believed the shooting of his clerk involved gangs, and one of the defendants was in a gang. He felt MPD was infiltrated by the gangs. June 13th, he recused himself from the case. Although a new judge found no evidence that Judge Norris did anything wrong on the bench, federal judge Cheryl Littman decided to grant a new trial. And John Keith Perry told us earlier that the attorney for he's the attorney for Tredarius Bean. He gave us this statement. While Judge Littman is a stickler for rules and procedures, her actions have always upheld the judicial integrity of the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Tennessee. And he went on to say, and we will proceed according to the future orders of this court. So we'll have more on this breaking news story tonight on News Channel 3 at 6 and 10. For now, investigating for news leader Jessica Gertler, WREG News Channel 3.
Tonight, there are more questions surrounding federal judge Mark Norris, who removed himself from the Tyre Nichols case. We now know comments made by the judge led to that decision, and also to 3 former officers in his court getting a new trial. WRG investigator April Thompson has a look at whether Judge Norris's words could carry more consequences.
We now know Judge Mark Norris's reason for removing himself from the federal trial of Demetrius Haley, Justin Smith, and Tadarius Bean, 3 of the former police officers charged in the beating death of Tyre Nichols. After weeks of testimony last fall and days before sentencing, Judge Norris announced he was stepping away from the case. This court order for a new trial says after Judge Norris's law clerk was shot during a burglary just days after the verdict, Norris said he believed one of the officers in the case was in a gang and that the gang was responsible for the shooting of his clerk. He also reportedly said MPD is infiltrated to the top with gang members. The new judge now over the case says even though Judge Norris's decisions throughout the trial were sound and fair, what is required is not merely an absence of actual bias, but an absence of even the appearance of judicial bias. Memphis attorney Michael Working chairs the Ethics Committee for the Tennessee Criminal Defense Bar. He says bias is serious because judges want to be above and beyond any suspicion that anything is wrong with the process.
And the difficulty becomes when the judge acknowledged bias and prejudice and recused himself. It's very rare that that happens after trial. So now the questions start to rise about, well, how long has this bias and prejudice been present?
WREG reached out to Judge Norris for a comment, but his office issued this statement. Because of the Code of Judicial Conduct, I cannot make a statement on this matter. But could this impact other cases Judge Norris has in his court involving Memphis police? Could other attorneys now raise the same question of perceived bias? Working says this case completely flips things.
Usually defense attorneys are arguing that judges are too biased or prejudiced in favor of the police. It's very rare to have a judge be found to be biased or prejudiced against police.
He says it may be a reason for prosecutors to be concerned, since usually they depend on police as witnesses.
If he believes that the Memphis Police Department is been infiltrated with gang members to the highest level and it's a completely corrupt organization that can't be trusted, it's very hard to prosecute cases in front of him and say, believe these officers. There will be a lot of thinking about how to handle this by the U.S. Attorney's Office, I think.
Reporting for your news leader in Memphis, April Thompson, WREG News Channel 3.
A federal judge in the Tyre Nichols case granted a new trial for the 3 ex-Memphis police officers involved in that. And now back in June, Judge Mark Norris recused himself, sparking controversy. And now court records show Judge Norris had improper communication with FBI agents. The new judge, Cheryl Littman, is allowing those former officers a new day in court. And a Memphis criminal defense attorney tells ABC 24's Desmond Nugent how this decision could impact last year's federal case.
Andre Warden with the Warden Law Firm tells me those former Memphis police officers' federal trial last year, where they were all convicted of at least one charge, is now null and void with this new trial.
Those charges, for all practical purposes, that they were convicted of back in October, I think you referenced, those have gone away. These gentlemen right now stand presumed innocent.
It's a rare scenario, but that's the reality for ex-MPD officers Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith. Federal Court Judge Cheryl Littman granted a motion for a new trial. Memphis criminal defense attorney Andre Warden says this new trial gives them a fresh slate in court with the potential they may not face sentencing.
There won't be a sentencing hearing unless and until or if they're convicted. It is a very rare situation that defendants are granted new trials, but under the circumstances of what we know transpired, no, it did not surprise me.
Bean, Haley, and Smith were all convicted by a jury on federal charges in October 2024. Back in June, Judge Mark Norris recused himself after handling the case for 2 years. Court documents show Judge Norris told FBI agents and prosecutors that he believed a defendant in the case was in a gang and claimed gang members infiltrated the Memphis Police Department. Defense attorneys say no evidence was presented in court.
I'm sure they're relieved because anytime your clients have been convicted of anything, you carry that burden with you, and you're going to continue to fight on. But you're relieved in a sense that the system worked for them.
Warden believes the state trial, where Bean, Smith, and Haley were each acquitted, provided leverage prior to requesting a new federal trial. He says eventually a resolution will happen in this case.
I know Memphians are probably growing tired of hearing about it. We want to move on, but this family, obviously the defendants who were involved deserve justice, but the family deserves justice. So in order to get it right, sometimes it takes a little while.
A status conference is set for September 25th to determine what will be retried. We'll continue to keep you updated on air and online. In the studio, I'm Desmond Nugent, ABC 24 News.
Y'all seen it? That shit's fucked up. We witnessed a man get beat to death by police officers brutally on TV, where it was played all over the place, got national coverage in other countries. Man was complying. All right. He said, okay, like 50 times. Got beat to death. And there's a lot of other intricacies in this case that I've seen in the trials that I don't want to speak about on camera out of respect for the family. This is bullshit. It is. If this was me or any of you regular folk out there, and we were sitting up there as 3 co-defendants in a trial in the feds, regular people, another judge would have stepped in, because we was already sentenced in the court of law. They would have stepped in and they would have just handed out the sentencing. Sentencing different than trial. It's separate from trial. Sentencing come after you've been found guilty in a court of law. So regardless if the judge recused himself or not from the case due to bias or whatever he thought, he had no input in the jury saying guilty. So why do they get a new trial? See the game? See the games they play? Let's just run it back. Because of a technicality, let's run it back. This judge know damn well he ain't supposed to be talking outside of the courtroom about anything. He knew that. But he was up in arms. He wanted justice for his clerk that was shot in a burglary, where he just says, oh, one of the defendants, which is probably true, did that to my clerk, investigated, all of a sudden that equals a new trial. This was early in the trial when his clerk supposedly got shot. But you ran through the trial still. And they were found guilty at the end. All you had to do, you could have still recused yourself. And another standing judge could have came and handed out the sentencing. Hell, it ain't like she had to go through a bunch of legal paperwork. All you had to do was watch the motherfucking video and you would already knew what to do. This is sad. My heart bleeds for the city of Memphis. Shout out Memphis. Damn, I forgot to do it. And to the family, who I've got to know personally, and they are very good people. They are, guys. I want you to pay attention. All this judge had to do, this is just me, is step in and just deliver a sentence. I'm more than sure that has happened before in the history of the justice system. But for some odd reason, they not. And I'll tell you why in a second and why I think it is, which I'm more than sure I'm correct. All she had to do was step in and pass down a sentence according to the guidelines. That's why they have the guidelines in the feds. They already know what time frame you're going to be on. But she didn't do it. She's running it back. And that ain't for the family's benefit. It's for the benefit of these cops. I'm going to tell you something that's fucked up. Martin and Mills pictured here. You remember them too. Martin, the big dude, is the one that was punching Tyre Nichols relentlessly and caused all of that damage. Mills is the one that, he was the first one to turn state's evidence or federal evidence against the others. He was the one that batoned Tyre Nichols on that corner. They took deals already, signed off on the deals. The federal judge in the deal, in the case, is still him. So he has to sign off an acceptance of those plea deals. So guess what? What you think them lawyers gonna do? Oh, regardless if he said deals or not. He was violating judicial bias. That deal shouldn't count. They shouldn't count. At last count, Martin was the only one locked up. Mills is somewhere else. I think he's a truck driver or something now. Can't remember. But either way, this right here throws a whole bunch of stain on the whole situation. In my opinion, this whole thing is about money. It is. It's about money. That's why they doing that trial shit. Because if you look at it, now the cards are stacked against them really getting justice. Because they had one guilty plea in the feds. Then right after that, the big case was the murder case in which they was found innocent. They went and got jurors from another place, another county, not even in Memphis, a police-friendly jury, and they got them off the hook with the murder charge. They used the same tactic before. I don't know, it was Hamilton County or whatever they got these people from, and brought them down, but they was found guilty in the feds. They was found guilty in the feds. Now, I want you to think about something. What's the chance of that happening again after history and everybody knows that they was found innocent in the state? I want you to think about that. That right there is a stacked deck. That's bullshit. Justice system will never want to admit failure. So what they'll do is, the best thing to do is do it again. But the odds are stacked against them because history has already been shown and they've already seen what the cards hold. Don't you think about that? This is fucked up. My heart feels bad for these folks and everybody else that cares about the case. I'm like the only person that's still talking about this because it was amazing to me. I seen all kind of police videos, but it was amazing to me how he was compliant and all of that still happened to him. He was forced to run for his life, y'all. That could have been me. Could have been a lot of you. You know what I'm saying? Could have been a lot of you. And, I don't play the black and white card like that. But let's be honest. If Tyre Nichols was white, that would have never happened to him. We know this for a fact. We do. And that's no disrespect to anybody. We know. They did this guy treat this guy like trash and like he wasn't even a human being. Now the family got to go through all that trauma again in the court just to get something resembling justice, if they even get that. You remember they got that $500 million civil suit against the city. Now, this right here, with that civil suit looming, it's only right to do another trial. You see the game they playing? Things are still on the line. Told you, people fight over white and black all the time because they're instructed to, subliminally. But the real color's green. And like I told you, don't nothing move but the money. Especially in the justice system. And you're seeing it now. Are they gang members or something in the police department? I wouldn't be surprised. I don't live out in Memphis. But I do know this, I'd get the fuck out of there. Because this right here shows you ain't got no win. Especially when they got egg on their face. They're going to wipe it off immediately and then smoke and mirrors and put it back on something else. Can't admit defeat. There are flaws in the justice system. There are holes in the sentencing. There are holes in the punishments. And this right here showed them to you real quick if you looked hard enough. I'm Stock Market Steve for the Dynamic Reason channel. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Said it before, say it again. Justice for Tyre and his family. This could have been any of us. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.